Hello and welcome to another episode of the Designer Diaries podcast. In today's episode, I want to address something that literally happens to absolutely all of us, but something that is probably one of the worst things about running your own business, and that is imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is the feeling you get when you feel like you're not good enough, like who am I to even be doing this right now? Like, oh my God, everyone else is so much better than me. How can I possibly charge X amount for doing this? I'm not worthy of that. I don't deserve that. I'm not good enough. I feel like I'm an imposter in a zone where everyone else is the real deal. That's what imposter syndrome is, and trust me when I say every single business owner gets this, especially I think when you are a solo business owner and running your own freelance business and being a website designer and things like that. Imposter syndrome is your own mind trolls and demons telling you that you're not good enough because you're trying to do something that's scary, like running your own business. But what I've always found interesting is that over the years, I have met people who are starting out in their business. I have met people who are more established, people who run 6- and 7-figure big businesses with their own teams and everything. And at every level, all of these people still experience imposter syndrome. I don't think it's something that you can get rid of, but today in this episode, I want to share with you some of the tips that help me deal with it when it comes up for me. And it's not there all the time. It mainly does get triggered by certain things happening. Sometimes imposter syndrome gets triggered when things maybe are not in alignment for you. Something is feeling a bit off in your business in the way that you're doing things. I'll come back to that in a minute. It can also happen when you're at the crux of taking like a big step or a big leap or making a big change in your business, like raising your prices or starting something new. Generally, stepping outside of your comfort zone is a big trigger for getting imposter syndrome, so we'll talk about that. And a lot of the time it also comes from comparison and constantly comparing yourself to other people in your industry or generally other business owners, which is not healthy. So what do I mean when I say this can happen when things are not in alignment in your business or things are not aligned for you? The most common way that this happens is kind of tied to comparison a little bit, but it's where you end up finding yourself chasing someone else's goals or constantly chasing after someone else's version of success. So one really basic example of this is when people chase financial or money related goals without really digging into why they want to achieve those goals. So let's say that you've seen someone else in your industry make a 6-figure year or something, and that really appeals to you. You want that money. And so that starts to be your new goal and you're constantly chasing it. But you're also then feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough. Like, why am I not getting there quick enough? Why isn't this easy for me? These are all kind of imposter syndrome mindset troll things that come up, because a lot of the time, if you have done this, you haven't checked in with yourself really and asked yourself, is this actually a goal that I want, or have I just seen someone else achieve it and now I want that for myself? Likewise, things can become unaligned for you as well if you start trying to be like someone else because you see the success that they've got, or you really admire what they're doing and you start maybe copying a little bit of what they're doing, or not even really explicitly copying, but taking a lot of inspiration from someone else and really trying to be like them. And it happens all the time. I've definitely gone through periods of my business where I have really admired someone and I just wanted to be like them and adjusted my style a bit to be like them and stuff. And nothing good really ever comes of that. Essentially, you lose your own identity by trying to be someone else, and lots of other people probably are doing the same. So then you end up blending in with a crowd, not being unique, and also having that horrible imposter syndrome because you are not being authentic to yourself. You're trying to be like someone else. And it's quite hard to spot this when you're doing it because you trick yourself into believing that this is actually you and your personality and your identity, and you're not taking heavy inspiration from someone else. So it's hard to realize when your brain is tricking you into doing this, but that is the first key step, is realizing and being really honest with yourself. Okay, am I maybe romanticizing this person too much? Am I trying to be like them? And then the next step is you really, really want to get clear on who you are and what your values are and what your why is and your purpose. Like, why is it that you have started this business? What are your actual values surrounding business, the way that you approach business, the way that you approach design? Take it back all of those steps and dig really deep about your own personal why, and set your own goals and create your own identity. Because when you're trying to chase someone else's version of those things, it just makes you become unaligned. It makes you experience that imposter syndrome, but it also makes you less magnetic to other people as well, because other people can sense that kind of inauthenticness, or the fact that you're not truly being yourself and chasing your own values and goals and desires. We do a lot of stuff around your identity and your personal brand inside my group program, In Demand Designer, which is mainly teaching designers how to build an audience with content marketing. But we have a whole module about your identity first, because it is so important, and it is much more in depth than any kind of ideal customer avatar exercise you've ever done before, because I'm very passionate about this being the key to everything in your business, essentially. So I will leave a link to that program in the description if you want to check it out. So another reason why you might be experiencing imposter syndrome is if you're having a big change going on in your business, or you're taking a big step, or you're starting something new, or you're raising your prices. Something is shifting and you're basically going out of your comfort zone. Big example of this might be you're starting to put yourself out there more on a certain content platform. Maybe you've started a YouTube channel and that feels scary to put yourself out there because you've never shown up on video like that before. That could be an example. But one main big one which causes so many issues, and it happens to me every time I do this, that is raising your prices. So I regularly and consistently raise my prices every single year, and every single time I do it, I get imposter syndrome. In my head, I'll be like, I'm not good enough to charge this much. Who's going to hire me to do this and pay me that much money? Every time my brain does this, and I've been doing this for 10 years, but that is completely normal because it's stepping outside of my comfort zone. I'm pushing myself to do more in my business, and so it's natural that that's going to come up. Typically when this happens, I will take a step back and kind of just remind myself, I've done this before, I can do it again. There are people out there who charge a lot more than me, and there will always be people out there who charge more than you. And I try to notice any negative thoughts that come up in my brain, and I then try and reframe them. So something that I've been doing actually regularly every single morning is I've got a bit of a kind of gratitude journaling habit going on, where yes, I'll write down 3 things I'm grateful for every morning, but something else that I'm doing is I'm also taking a moment to write down any negative thoughts that I have in my head, and then writing a thought next to it, which is kind of the reframed version. So what is the more positive way to look at this? Or what if the opposite was true of what I'm thinking? So if we're talking about imposter syndrome, I could write down that I'm worried no one will hire me at my new prices. That would be my negative thought. And then to reframe that, I would write down that the people who do hire me and get in touch with me are going to be such the perfect fit for me in terms of not only price, but also the perfect types of projects that I want to work on. Because my price is higher, they're going to be really invested in me, really invested in the project. They're really going to want the best out of this project. And I've done this for 10 years and I have consistently got clients. I've raised my prices before and I've got clients at the new rates. It's happened before and it's happened again. Those are the sorts of things that I would write down after I've had that negative thought. So I definitely think that is a useful exercise. The other thing that I always try and remind myself is that everyone has to start somewhere. So if you are like starting a new kind of project, or you're starting a new marketing content platform and you're feeling nervous about it and you're getting those imposter syndrome moments, just remind yourself that everyone has to start somewhere. And if you don't start, you can't get better, you can't practice unless you actually start doing. And every single person has that awkward first stage. You can go back on any of the businesses or creators that you follow and look at some of their first stuff, and it's probably not that great because everyone has to start somewhere. There's a really cool girl that I saw on TikTok once called Erica Mallet, who has a whole video series and email newsletter called Cringe Mountain, where she shares the kind of cringe backstories of all of your favorite like celebrities and high profile people and how they actually got started, like for example Tom Holland's audition tapes or stuff like that. And it is a bit cringy, and you watch it and you just have to remind yourself, like, the most successful people have to start somewhere, and you're only going to get to that place yourself if you keep putting the work in. And then we have the type of imposter syndrome that comes up when you are comparing yourself to other people. And I know I mentioned this before, but I mean when you are doom scrolling on Instagram or going and investigating other people's websites and their services and what they offer and all of their clients that they've worked with in the name of market research. Because trust me, I've done this a lot and I've tricked myself into thinking that it's a positive thing that I'm having a look at this, and it never really is. First of all, if you do need to do market research to understand more about a new service that you're launching or something like that, make sure you are in the right headspace to do that, and don't get sucked in to the comparisonitis that can so easily come with it. Actually, it might be impossible to do market research without doing comparisons. So maybe if you have to do it, get someone else to do it for you so that you're not the one there that's getting sucked in. But aside from that, obviously social media is probably the biggest culprit of where our comparison comes from. And so that's why I think it is so important to carefully curate who you're following online. If you are feeling comparison come up, or you're feeling imposter syndrome come up when you look at certain people on Instagram or on LinkedIn or wherever it is that you are scrolling and coming across things, if you just get that sinking feeling in your stomach or the jealousy coming up when you're looking at certain people, just unfollow them. And if you don't want to unfollow them because it would be obvious, or you know them or something, you can mute them. I believe in blocking, unfollowing and muting people liberally. Your social media and scrolling experience is completely up to you. You have full control over it, and you don't have to feel those negative feelings every time you log on when you look at how successful someone else is being. If that is triggering you and you're not in the right headspace to feel like celebrating that person and moving on calmly, then just unfollow or mute. It is that simple. Remember that with anything online or social media, you're always going to get a highlights reel as well. You're not always going to get every single moment of someone's day, including all of the boring bits and the negative things. And if you hear about someone's success and how much money they've made or how many clients they've worked with, remember that that is only a small part of the story. That's the highlight that they are showing you. They're not showing you all of the evenings and weekends that they've been working, and the friendships that they've lost, or the stress that they've been feeling, or their health declining because they haven't been taking care of themselves in order to achieve these things. And even if it isn't that dramatic, you just don't know what's going on behind the scenes with someone. They could be really struggling with their mental health that you don't know about. And on the flip side, they could have loads of support that you don't see behind the scenes, and their background situation could be so different to yours that there's absolutely no point in comparing your output to their output because you don't know what's going on. Anyway, that is my social media rant over. And I'll finish off with 3 other tips that I find super, super helpful for imposter syndrome at any point being triggered by anything. One is that I have got on my Trello business system, which I share with you inside my course, The Organized Designers Hub, by the way. I will leave a link in the description. All of my templates and my whole business project management, client management system is all on Trello, and I give you the templates for that in that course. I have a whole board in my system where I save kind words and testimonials from clients. And yeah, you probably have your own way of collecting testimonials, but I don't just mean the formal kind of form that your clients fill out. I mean any single thing online, like on your Instagram. Maybe you've had a comment saying, oh my gosh, I love this design, this is so unique. Screenshot it. Save it to, it could just be a folder on your computer. For me, it's a Trello board, so I can keep track of the different areas of my business, and any kind words or nice things that people say about me or to me on the internet ever, I will screenshot it and save it. And then when I'm having a really bad day and thinking like, oh, everyone hates what I'm doing, what's the point in all this? I'm not making an impact. I can go on that board and look at all of the lovely things that clients have said about my work, but also just people on my content platforms have said, or students of my courses in my case as well. I can go on there and see their comments, and it's really lovely. And one thing that I've also done this year is every single year I make a vision board, which I use as my desktop wallpaper on my computer. And this year what I've done on the vision board is not only use photos of things that I want to happen, but also I've added some of those kind words screenshots on there because I want to kind of manifest more of those things, but also because I want to be reminded of that every time I open my computer. That is my motivation, is really having an impact on people and getting those lovely comments from people. So that really helps. Also, as I mentioned, I do have a bit of a gratitude practice habit, which sounds so boring and lame and simple, and everyone always talks about it, but I honestly believe that writing down things that you're grateful for every morning, just 3 things, and they can be really, really little silly things, just sets your day up in a nice positive way. And I think it helps with the imposter syndrome too, because it's just making sure that you are looking at the positive first before you start going down the negative thought train. And finally, just doing more things that give you perspective as well. Sometimes imposter syndrome can get so bad that you just feel like you're drowning in thoughts about your business and why it's not worth it and why it's difficult and why you're not good enough and things like that. And it can really consume you. And I think one of the best ways to get out of that is to just go and do something completely different and give yourself some other perspective and remind yourself that actually my business is just one element of my life. My design work is just one element of my life. My life is so rich, and I, as a human and as a person, am made up of so much more than just my business and my work. Go and hang out with friends, go and hang out with family, get outside, get in nature. I like to get in the sea because I'm in Cornwall, so I am lucky to have that. But just getting outside in any way, or doing some other kind of creative thing or hobby, something that uses your hands or something that you're just compelled to do because you love it and you just want to be creative and do it, rather than something that is business related. I really do find that that is one of the best things that helps when you just feel the weight of that imposter syndrome and not feeling good enough on your shoulders. I hope overall these tips help. As I said, every single person experiences it. It doesn't necessarily go away as your business grows, but that is also something to take comfort in, is that it is so normal and everyone experiences it. And just think, if your brain is always going to tell you that you're not good enough, then surely that means it's lying and playing tricks on you, because there's no such thing as good enough if you're constantly feeling that way. So you can kind of take comfort in the fact that literally everyone at every level experiences this. So that's it for today. If you want to come and chat with me, I'm over on Instagram at by.rosanna. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, please do leave me a little review comment. I would love to know what you think about this podcast so far. Whatever you're listening or watching on, you should be able to either leave a comment or a little review, and I would be super appreciative if you take time to do that. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll speak to you again soon.